All right. Do you want to talk about some games?
Yeah, I do want to talk
What
about
order
some
should we
games.
do this in? Do you want to go first? Talk about tiny towns. I really want to hear about tiny
Do
towns.
you want me to talk about tiny towns?
Yes, please.
All right, cool. Let me talk to you about the tiny towns. Look at this. Actually, hold up a second. I want to show you something right now. All right.
Show me something.
Tiny towns. Woo! Cool. Look at that. Tiny
Ooh.
Towns. All right. So, Tiny Towns is a game made by Peter McPherson. Gong Studio did the illustration. It's a very nice illustration there on the front cover box. It's very inviting. Like, it definitely captures your eye when you see it on the board game shelf at your fridges. And AEG published Tiny Towns, which this is a very AEG heavy episode. Two of our games, this one and one that you'll be talking about later, are on the show today, which is really cool. So AEG putting out some of the bangers,
and actually consistently too. I think it was some of my early games were AEG games.
Yeah,
probably just Love Letter. Anyway,
yeah, Love Letter is pretty popular, but
it's a classic. AEG. Okay, go on.
Yeah, so anyways, Tiny Towns is a fun little abstract town building game, city building game, in which you will be doing, let me see here, actually, I want to do this perfect. All right, boom, transition to this guy right here, so now you get to see. In Tiny Towns, what you're going to be doing is, this is, like I said, an abstract game in which there's one of 5 different materials, and you are using these materials to put on a 16 square grid, 4x4 grid. And there's a bunch of different buildings, I think 7 or 8 buildings that you put out at the beginning of the game that have these little tetramino-like paths that you can start using these resources to start building your specific buildings. And so there's like millstones, there's fountains, there's inns, there's taverns, there's factories, there's orchard, there are cottages. And then there's also very special pink, which you can see here in the screenshot. There are very specific architect. I forget what they're called. Like, they're not temples, but they're a really unique special building that give a really cool power to your town, makes that specific town unique, your own, that you pick at the very beginning of the game. And so, again, what has been kind of my drive the last few games that I've been playing recently is just these very simple to learn, simple to teach, simple to play type of games that take about, 45 hour 15 minutes to play, that you kind of just like, oh yeah, cool, I get it, maybe want to give it another try. Just these really fun, simple game. Not simple, I mean, simple in a way that it's like, what you do per turn is easy, but also there's a lot to think about, and there's some things that you want to take into consideration every single time that you play your turn that will benefit you at a point to where gives you a little bit of a lead to your opponents. So I played this game a bunch. I want to say 4 or 5 times. I played this, I think, 3 times at 2-player and 1 time at 3-player. So 1 time at 2-player, 1 time at 3-player. And I want to say that for this game at that player count level, it works really, really well. Again, when everybody picks the resource, everyone else takes that resource, puts it somewhere on their board. So theoretically, you could have a mirror game if you decide to really match up your opponent, but it doesn't really work out that way due to the special building that you get at the beginning of the game, and just what end up you decide to do. Because normally, like, the thing that you get usually can decide how you build your strategy. So for instance, there are cottages, and cottages will give you 3 points, but they need to be fed. And the way that you feed your cottages are building orchards or building buildings that have the ability to feed other, the cottages. And they are worth no points, but you need them in order to score. But there's one specific building that you actually get points if they are left unfed, which is like a cemetery mausoleum, which I thought really was pretty funny. I really like that one. That was like my favorite one. And so you end up building all these different cottages, and then you build this mausoleum, and the mausoleum just allows you to score 3 points as if you had fed your... it was like an anti-orchard or something like that, which was pretty cool. There's also a variant called the Town Hall variant, where instead of having every player choose a resource, you have the deck of cards, 3 of each resource. So there's 5 resources, 3 of each. So you have 15 cards. You burn the top 5, and then you do 2. So you flip over the first 2 cards, you place those resources, and then everybody gets to pick any one of their choice. And then you repeat the process over and over and over until the end game condition hits, which is you have to fill up your entire board, whether that be with resources or with houses. And I do not think it is plausible to get every single board covered up with house or buildings. I think it's impossible. I think they will at least have one. I think you'll have at least one left over. Let me switch it back over to us again.
And this is him doing it live because we are recording this in front of a live digital audience. So in the future, if you're listening to this and you want to see us live and see us do this live, hop on Twitch every other Monday evening and you can stare into our beautiful eyes.
Yes, that indeed. And please comment in the chats and then we can talk to you. Look at that. How can you resist those brown caterpillar eyebrows?
Did you see that image of the actress playing Daenerys? Oh, I can't say any spoilers about Game of Thrones.
Yeah, don't.
Never mind. Continue.
So what you'll do is you can do that variant as well too, which works I think as solo, and it also works with other players as well too, which works really nicely. Again, game is quick, simple. I played it with my parents and my parents enjoyed it. My mom enjoyed it. She had some very specific concerns though, which is interesting that I'll go into, but I do really want to give Tiny Towns a thumbs up because there has been something about Tiny Towns that I've seen over the last couple of weeks, specifically on Twitter, with not only AEG, but just all these different board game personalities just like giving the love
out about it.
Giving the love to Tiny Towns. And I was one that wasn't originally too I knew it existed, and I think actually it was being previewed at PAX Unplugged last year because I think we were right across from the AEG booth or something. I don't remember. However, I even saw it at a local gaming store and I thought about picking it up, and I was just like, there really isn't anything, until it just was like every day I would see something new about Tiny Towns, how people would play this game on a video and that you could play along and then repost your score to see if you beat their score, which I think is also cool. Ingenious, right?
Yeah.
Because there isn't too many games out there. The only one I can think about is Welcome To, that does that type of interaction, right? Where you can post a video, you can tell any of your viewers to follow along, and they can play with you. And so I really approve of that. I dig it.
Oh, that's awesome. This is the exact weight of game that I love, and that's why I'm very excited about this. And so I've heard you've enjoyed it so far, but I interrupted. Continue.
Yeah. So, it was interesting in terms of because when I played it with my mom, so there's something really interesting, and I think it happens with the type of light, but when I talked about the resources, there's red for brick, blue for glass, tan or gray for stone, I think, and then there's yellow for wheat, and then there's one other one, I want to say black. I'm gonna probably kick myself. If someone in the chat can confirm. Anyways, there's 5 different ones. And what can happen is that some of the colors under different lights show up differently. So for instance, if you're under a yellow light, the reds turn into oranges. And then the cottages and the inns are like a blue and a green, but under different lights, they can look very similar. So I've had a lot of people get concerned about the different types of colors in the light that you play. Still doesn't make the game unplayable. It just is a little bit odd when you look at, the cards that are in front of you, and then you're picking up and trying to find the piece. It's just, there's some interesting color things that can happen with the type of light that you're in. And then I can only say this off of how I felt with the 2 to 3 player game. And I this is a little bit unconfirmed, but I'm just getting this feeling that when you have 6 people playing this game, because there's 6 boards that you can play with, unless if everyone has kind of played, I think there's going to be a huge fight to be able to see all the different types of cards that you can play. So what ends up happening is that they're nice big tarot cards, but then what can happen is when people are sitting around the table and you're trying to figure out the types of different buildings that you have and how every building interacts with every other building, that you can have this tendency of crane neck, or being able to try to read upside down, or just feeling like, okay, I just have to do something because otherwise it's going to take too long.
Mm-hmm.
I have that worry with longer, with bigger games where you just might have to do that, or you kind of have to really cram in, to get 6 players in. Also, with 6 players, it can get chaotic because if everyone gets to choose their own resource, and then everyone else has to take it, that means that you have 5 other people that could potentially like mess up what you're trying to do, or you have to be super specific. I am terrible at tiny towns, by the way. I didn't even preface with that. I am awful. I've had so many more people beat me at this game, and I've played this probably the most out of everybody. Mm-hmm. It's okay though. It's still okay. But man, it's a tricky game, and it's just like sometimes you either have to just be really future thinking with how you place your specific cubes, because everyone has their own agenda. And I can only imagine at higher count games that it can tend to get a little bit unwieldy. But that's where I think maybe the Town Hall deck could come into play, where it tends to ease it out. But that still is also very hard. I'm just saying, like, there's a lot going on here. But in all, thumbs up, give it a play. If you can find it, I almost want to say pick it up, because I think it's well worth all the different press I've been seeing. It's a great family game. I think there's even a little bit of player interaction in that what you choose can also impact the other players, but not to a vicious degree. So even for more of a competitive gamer, there's like that little edge to it too that kind of scratches that, but near towards the end, not like right away. But
oh man,
yeah,
okay,
it's good stuff.
I need to try this game. The fact that it plays up to 6 and at that weight is, I don't know. It's not like I play with 6 that often, but if I have 6, it's kind of hard to find a game to play like that just takes an hour and that's super easy to learn. Yep. Okay, so do you think that you have a lot more plays in this, or after you played a couple times, you're done?
No, I think there's still some shelf life to be had with this game. I'm almost kind of itching for more buildings. Weirdly enough, what it's interesting is because like of each color building that you can get, like the teal, the green, the brown, the blacks, your factories and stuff. There's 4 of each kind of like regular building, and then there's like these unique buildings, and there's like a ton of them. There's like 20 or something. But with the 4, what I've been doing is I've been shuffling up each deck and choosing one at random, and for some reason I've been getting some of the same ones that I've already played. So like the fountain and the millstone, I haven't had anything else but those 2. And those are like, a wood and a stone. That was it. Wood was the one I was missing, the brown block. So, I think what I'll have to do is I'll have to probably bust this out and choose the different ones just so that I can get that other that. It's still definitely got some shelf life on it.
Yeah.
With other couples, and I even think that like if Brittany and I wanted to get a quick game in after dinner or something, that one you can just bring out and it's awesome. It's just something that you can bring out and be like, okay, pick a thing, place it somewhere, match these buildings, you're done. And I think that's really cool. So yeah. So pretty neato. You also get graded for your points. Like you become like a master builder if you score over however many X many points. It's funny like what your score like tiers you, how that can kind of work for solo games too. Mm-hmm. So like if you get under 19, it's like, oh, you're just an apprentice or like that.
Yeah.
But
I gotta try it. Okay, I'm gonna go pick it up. It's not too expensive, is it?
20 tones. It's like $50 MSRP.
Oh, $50. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
There's a lot of wood bits in it, which is why. And it has an awesome insert to it, which is nice. I appreciate. So
it looks great. Good job, AEG. I feel like they're just steady. I mean, of course, not every game of theirs is a hit, but the ones that do hit hard, I feel like.
Bam.
Do you remember when they would do the black box every year?
I heard about black box and their mystery box every year.
Yeah, I think I
never got into it though. Yeah, I never.
No, me neither. I mean, I don't have that many. I don't know how many I have. That would be very interesting. Okay, at some point we should see how many games we have from each publisher. I think that'd be really fascinating to see which, and if there's a difference between like our favorite publisher and if we have the most games from them. I wonder if I would.
I have so much Fantasy Flight.
I was just gonna say, I think it's all Fantasy.
It's all Fantasy Flight. However,
yeah.
if you don't count the expansions, then that might be a little bit closer. But in terms
That's
of
true.
like pure count of games, it's Fantasy Flight, because let alone just in my Arkham Horror LCG collection,
Yes.
which is like the first 3, sets or whatever. Yeah,
and like a
it's
close
silly.
second for me would probably be like Simon or something. Anyway, that's not what we're talking about, but that would be a fun discussion for another time. Anyway, Tiny Towns by AEG.
Tiny Towns.